Joining us now to discuss more is Mike Hahn, Republican strategist and president of digital at Frontline Strategies. He's also a former Trump 2016 campaign official. Mike, I want to talk domestic politics with you, but first a word on Taiwan and what's happening around Taiwan right now. Is President Trump right to be at least publicly brushing off what's happening?
Yeah, I wouldn't underestimate his relationship with President Xi. Look, I think China is also operating from a position of weakness right now. They're seeing that the president's able to solve multiple conflicts all across the world, and the tariffs themselves have also hurt China quite a bit. So I do take the president at his word and think he has that situation under control.
Mike, what should the president's priorities be, given that it's been quite a difficult time for Americans in the last month or so, and there have been so many distractions between the Epstein files and everything else?
Well, look, I think the president's going to focus heavily on the economy heading into 2026, as he should. Most indicators point to the fact that the economy is doing very well. Unemployment rose just a little bit, but that's because of government jobs that were lost. Inflation has cooled off. It was at 9% under Joe Biden. It came down to 2.5%. Gas prices are down for the fifth week in a row. You guys were talking about it earlier that, hopefully we get some more rate cuts before we eventually replace Jerome Powell and get a friendlier Fed chair in there to the economy. So I think that the president's right to continue to talk about the economy. And I do think it is somewhat of a danger for Democrats to really go down this rabbit hole ahead of the 2026 midterms, because a year is an eternity in politics. So who knows what could change by then.
Well, Mike, that's a great segue, of course, into the domestic politics scene here, which I know you're following very closely. And yeah, as you mentioned, right, midterms more than a year away, but still now a lot of kind of hand-wringing over how Republicans are going to handle that. What's the strategy, whether Democrats are going to be able to take some seats back either in the Senate or the House. I mean, is the worry justified at this point?
Well, look, I think most folks on my side of the aisle are looking at what happened in New Jersey and Virginia, and that's where the hand-wringing is beginning. Again, those weren't necessarily states that we were supposed to win. It just looked good leading up to those races. Of course, both of those candidates lost. I do think it was a candidate problem in those races. But, of course, we're going to take the warning signs there and see what we could do with them. But like I mentioned, I think the economy is going to be a huge issue for 2026. I think it's really going to matter in a lot of these swing House districts. I would say the House is probably the most vulnerable at the moment, although I'm not too concerned, again, because if the economy, the outlook does change, we will be okay in a lot of those seats. I feel very confident about the Senate. I think we have a lot of great hold opportunities in some Republican seats and a few pickup opportunities in Georgia and in New Hampshire. So not that worried about the Senate. But again, I think that the messaging is going to come down to the economy, and it is going to certainly affect some of those House races.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always the economy that makes or breaks elections more often than not, Mike. So, in terms of the metrics that Americans are going to be looking to more than a year from now, what do you think is going to stick in terms of measures of how the economy is doing and how they are doing as households?
I think energy costs are going to be a huge factor. You're seeing that in a lot of blue states as they shift to more of a green energy plan, that energy costs are rising. I'm coming to you from New Jersey. We experienced that in the last governor's election here. Gas prices, obviously, being down 5 weeks in a row is a good sign. And, of course, some of the geopolitical tensions we're seeing across the world may have an impact on those in a positive or negative way. We'll have to see how that plays out. And I also, again, I think it really does come down to interest rates, because you're going to see a younger generation, like a lot of my friends who bought houses when interest rates were 7% and above, that want to refinance. And then you also have generations that are in houses that are far too small for them, and they don't want to leave because they have a 2% interest rate from 2020. So I think that a lot of the economy is the feeling. And I think when people can, start to feel better about their living situations, that is what will in turn, help Republicans, because they're the ones in power right now.
Mike, what does the president say to the public who thinks he shouldn't be involved in Venezuela or Nigeria, for that matter?
Well, look, I think the president's very clear that he's going to put the American interests first all across the world. I think when it comes to Venezuela, we certainly have to put American interests first, because they are a narco-terrorist state. Nicolas Maduro is a narco-terrorist. And you also have somewhat of a Monroe Doctrine going on there, because we have China and Russia meddling in that country, and they're in our hemisphere. They're only a few thousand miles away from the tip of Florida. So I think when it comes to Venezuela, the president's acting in the best interest of the country. In Africa, again, the president has always been committed to destroying ISIS, which I know those strikes were heavily focused on. So in this first term, he eliminated the caliphate, and I'm sure he's going to continue to do that in his second term.